As the ferry cuts across the cobalt waters of the Mediterranean, an ancient land rises from the sea. Gozo, the second largest island in the Maltese archipelago. Quieter, wilder, older in soul, Gozo is Malta's more rugged twin, a place where myth and memory live in the stone, and history clings to every sun-bleached wall. At its core stands the mighty Citadel, a fortress that has watched over the island for more than 3,000 years. First fortified in the Bronze Age, then reshaped by the Romans, strengthened by the Byzantines, and reborn under the Knights of St. John. The Citadel has never been a mere structure. It is a symbol of protection, of faith, of endurance. But not all who reached these shores came to build. In 1551, the storm came. The Ottoman Empire, drunk on expansion and cloaked in the black flag of conquest, set its sights on Gozo. These were pirates, these were predators, part of the imperial machine determined to choke the Christian world from within. At their helm, Dragut, the scourge of the Mediterranean, a name whispered in dread by every coastal village from Italy to Greece. Gozo stood alone. The Citadel, proud and defiant, held its ground as long as it could, but it wasn't enough. What followed was not a battle, it was brutality. 5,000 people from Gozo, nearly the island's entire population, were dragged from their homes, shackled in iron, and sold like cattle in the Islamic slave markets of the Ottoman Empire. Mothers separated from children, priests from their churches, an island left hollow, violated in body and in soul. It was evil unleashed with calculated cruelty, but Gozo survived. Against all odds, some people returned, those who escaped captivity, those who refused to let the island die. They rebuilt their homes, rekindled their churches, and fortified their faith, not just in stone, but in Christ. Today, Gozo remains fiercely Catholic. Devotion is etched in every chapel, every niche, every feast day echoing through the hills. Faith here isn't decoration, it's defiance, it's declaration. We are still here. And high above it all, the Citadel still stands, no longer just a fortress, but a witness to centuries of blood, resilience and redemption. This is Gozo, not a forgotten corner in Malta, but its soul. And this is my brief exploration into Victoria and the Citadel of Gozo. Well, I've just arrived in Gozo. I'm here in the capital, Victoria. It used to be known as Islamist back in the day, but thankfully due to Queen Victoria back in 1887 for the Queen's Jubilee, it was renamed Victoria. This is right in the centre of the island, just about anyway, and it is the hub of Gozo. Gozo is the second biggest island in Malta. Well, effectively three main islands, the third being Comino. I am freshly recovered from a bout of food poisoning. You might have seen the state of me as I was monster hunting. Or not monster hunting, giant hunting. I looked a complete mess. That was the first day I could actually walk after the food poisoning. No, I didn't get the food poisoning here in Malta. I got the food poisoning in London. But eventually I wanted to fly and I got myself over here. So now here I am in the little small streets of Gozo. Now what do we have around here? We got, other than babushka walking around, we also have little market stalls. Let's twist the camera around a little bit. Market stalls, you can get your hats to cover your bald head. Why not? This one work on me, I think. A little bit big. That's a big hat. Tell me I have a big head, but that's a big hat. Some ladies have really big heads apparently. I did not realise that. The streets around here are very beautiful. It's perfect blue skies. No chemtrails in the skies here. The sound of the swallows, the sound of the birds. What I really love about looking at every single building around Malta, you notice this, let me turn this. You have these little symbols, saints on every building. You'll notice them as you go around Malta. There's obviously St. Joseph. You'll see them as you walk around. This is Victoria, the capital of Gozo, a city of just over 6,000 people, yet one that holds the weight of centuries. It may be small, but its streets, squares and stone chapels speak of people who've endured invasion, slavery and loss, and found meaning not in riches or power, but in faith. Just around the corner stands St. James's Church, quiet and dignified, Like so many others across these islands, Malta and Gozo together hold more than 360 churches, nearly one for every day of the year. For a nation that has seen so much taken from it, belief became something unshakable. When you've had everything stripped away, your home, your safety, your freedom, what you choose to hold onto speaks volumes. The Maltese held on to God. When people walk around Malta, or Gozo, the main island of Malta, they start seeing balconies that look just like this. Now, I thought it was a thing that you would see only in Ukraine and places. Ukraine has a mishmash of different balconies everywhere you go. But Malta does it slightly differently. Yes, they're a mishmash, but they do them in a kind of elegant sense. So much so, they've become kind of iconic to the place. Iconic in the fact that you can now go to tourist shops and you can buy your little Maltese balcony that looks just like this. You've got the Maltese balcony, you've got the doorway. I saw one in a Maltese shop just a moment ago. If you wanted to, you hang your keys on it. It's kind of a nice little touch.
James, have you brought me a souvenir from your trip?
So it is my attempt to show you some of Gozo in my weakened state. Imagine you've just wheeled out someone from the hospital. I was in the hospital, by the way, and they're on a little adventure and they're trying their best to muster the energy. But I think when you're surrounded by such beauty, it's going to be difficult not to show you some amazing things in this part of the world. As I try not to lose my breath, we're going to start to see something that has to be included in every Wandering Englishman video. Right in front of us here. I'm going to turn around. What do we see?
The obelisk. The obelisk!
We see an obelisk. Every time. Obelisks everywhere. But we're going to go into the Citadel, and this is where we're going to go. The highest point in this part of the island, I think possibly the highest point in the island. Put it in perspective on what this Citadel is. We just come up here, come up these things, and then we're going to begin our journey here. The visitor centre here. We've got the obelisk here. Of course we have an obelisk. Wandering Englishman wouldn't be complete without the obelisk. Let's see if we can pan down a little bit. We're going to head into the city gates. We will then see the Cathedral of Gozo, and we will take in all of this. We'll try our best to take it in. We may even walk around the city walls. Hopefully we will. Probably would get a very impressive view when we walk around the city walls. And it really does just show, it's a little bit like, in a way, every Edinburgh castle or castles around the world. It's a fortification. It's a place that you feel protected, and you can understand why knights and armies and everyone basically use this as their base. Quite phenomenal. Now this is the Citadel, the walled city I was talking about in the very beginning. It once served as both a fortress and a refuge, although today it's home to a collection of small but fascinating museums, each offering a glimpse into Gozo's long-layered past. The first one I stepped into though was the Museum of Archaeology. It's a modest place, but what it lacks in size it makes up for an age. The story of Gozo begins here, carved in stone, shaped by the sea, and left behind in fragments. Very, very small museum, the Museum of Archaeology. I think that's probably why the ticket price for all this entire complex is so cheap. €5 for the entire shindig, as they say. Word of advice to parents: if you've got a toddler, your toddler's teething or screaming, have a year off from going to the museums. You don't need to be in the museums for a year while the kid's doing that, because it just ruins it for everyone else. From up here on the rooftop of the Citadel, Gozo stretches out in every direction. Rolling hills, terraced fields, stone villages, and the shimmering sea beyond. It's a view that speaks of both beauty and survival. For centuries, this rooftop would have been a lookout, eyes scanning the horizon for sails that might bring trade or terror. Today it feels peaceful, but history still clings in the air. You can almost hear the footsteps of soldiers, the whispers of priests, and the cries of families during that brutal summer of 1551. Standing here, you don't just see Gozo, you feel the weight of what this island has endured, and how fiercely its people have held on to their land, their language, and their faith. I noticed cannons aren't really pointed of anywhere significant other than to basically tell those who are drinking to go home because they've had enough. The cannon is now pointed at the wine drinkers, which is somewhere I think I might get a refreshment soon. It is amazing to think just how many amazing civilizations have been part of this citadel. Right behind us, we've got this beautiful, beautiful church right in the center of the citadel. We're going to go in there later. I'm going to head over here, but just you can see why they picked this spot. It is pretty much the highest point on the island. It makes sense visually, pretty much see everything. You've got little people manning the mounds over there. They can give you a warning sign if there's anyone approaching from any part of the coast. Bunker in. What an impressive citadel, and what an impressive location. Really got a nice position when it comes to the geographical position on this earth. Refreshment had now pretty much at the top of the citadel, on one of the corners of the citadel's walls. Look at this impressive view. It's quite amazing. You've got to watch where you step so you don't fall down the stairs. People have just sort of taken themselves off around, enjoying the really impressive view, and it's a remarkable day for it. Some people complain that Malta is too hot in the summer. Well, I'm here in February, gives you time of when this was recorded, and it's perfect. The weather is perfect. Okay, I'm wearing a jacket. I mean, to be honest, that's only because I'm fragile. I think if I was on normal form, I could just be walking around in a t-shirt. We wouldn't have an issue. But this is just a remarkable place. I'm now in Gozo prison. You can see all these little markings on the wall. Check this out, you see. So it turns out a lot of this graffiti is actually graffiti linked to the prisoners that were here in the 19th century. Look at this guy, potential, I don't know if this is Louis or Luiglio, 1827 he was here. I think someone potentially trying to do 2002. We can know that the lighter scratches, you can tell, you can see that is a tourist, whereas that is a prisoner. And this, I think, prisoners certainly who were basically remembering the ships and wishing they could be back on the seven seas, free. Another ship here, but these are the cells. Look, you have to duck down, get in there. My voice is a mess. It really is a mess. I hope I'll be back. I hope I'll be back okay. But apparently prison life wasn't that difficult here. Well, saying that, they had hard labour. They had to work up to 12 hours a day. They got a pretty decent meal provided by the Catholic Church. Olives, fish, beef, soup, bread. They had a pretty good meal. The only negative was they had to live here. Sometimes they were let out. This was potentially a prisoner, not a tourist. Could have been the same person. They had to shave once a week, bathed every other day. Another person here, a bit bigger than this guy. 1868, that one, 1868. But it was also prison for the knights when they first came here. What we see here is mostly the prisoners from the 19th century. What is fascinating are these boats, I think. I don't know if you can see them. These are really fascinating. Probably the boats they used to work on, boats they used to sail around the world on. Possibly how they ended up here. Maybe they were smugglers. Maybe they were up to no good. Maybe they were pirates. Don't want to end up on the wrong side of the law. Look at this guy in here. He's still in here. Should we have a look? Kind of reminds me of my grandfather's prison. I don't know if you've seen that video. If you haven't seen that video, you can watch it here. But yeah, similar setup, although at least this guy's allowed to sit down. My grandfather wasn't allowed to sit down during the day. So it says here, this prison was used by the Knights of St. John. So back in the 16th century. This, for example, during the Great Siege, there's going to be an amazing movie made about the siege of Malta, and I urge you to look into the history. It's phenomenally fascinating. The siege of Malta. In 1538, he spent 4 months, so Fra Jean Priseau de la Vallée spent 4 months in prison for having attacked a layman. Not a good look if you're a knight attacking a layman, but he had to cool off, I guess. Easy way to feel better is you just climb up these very worn stairs and you get to the top of the Citadel. We're not quite at the top, almost the top. Look at this behind me. Wow. All of Gozo. You can see the sea over there. You can see the sea over there. Wrapping round the sea over there. Beautiful little island. Truly, truly phenomenal. The bell's ringing. Does that mean it's a certain time? Wow. Really nice. Right behind me is Pope John Paul II, and behind him is the Cathedral of Assumption. Now, Pope John Paul II came to Malta in 1990, and he visited Gozo in 1990. And the crowds and the spectacle were, as you'd expect, the Pope is visiting, quite extraordinary. And in my opinion, the last of the great popes. He was a good man. My mother's favourite pope, and probably all my grandparents' favourite popes, because he was alive during their time. We're going to go into the cathedral here, and it's part of a museum complex, so we're going to go in separate ticket to the other areas. So you pay €5 for those little mini museums in the Citadel, but you have to pay to get into the cathedral, and it's also €5. It's not going to break the bank. Yeah, let's go and check it out. This is the Cathedral of the Assumption, perched at the highest point of the Citadel in Victoria, as if heaven needed a stepping stone. It's majestic, but not overwhelming. There's a humility to the place, as if the building knows it serves something greater than itself. Yet what's most surprising is what's not here. If we look inside, there's no dome, just a masterful illusion, a painted trompe l'oeil from 1739 that tricks the eye into believing that you're under a soaring rotunda. It's theatre, it's art, it's practicality posing as grandeur. And it tells you everything you need to know about this cathedral. This is a place where limits became creativity, where faith made do and then made it beautiful. Lining the naves are chapels, small sacred alcoves, and that together form a mosaic of devotion, each one dedicated to a saint, a mystery, a need. Saint Joseph, Saint Paul, Saint Francis, the Immaculate Conception, the Crucifixion, Saint Anthony. Each chapel bears its own altar. These aren't just decorative, they're deeply personal. Over the centuries, Gozanton families have come here to baptize, to mourn, to thank. These spaces hold the island's quietest griefs and the loudest hopes. There's detail everywhere you look, from the inlaid marble floors to the hand-carved woodwork of the confessionals. The altars are sheeted in polished stone and trimmed in gold leaf. There's a sacred theatre to it, but the kind that leaves you thoughtful rather than dazzled. Tucked behind the cathedral, and easily missed if you're not paying attention, is something just as remarkable, the Cathedral Museum. Now, this isn't just a collection of old objects, this is the vault of the Gozanton Catholic heritage. Here you'll find vestments so intricate they could be mistaken for royal robes, chalices and monstrances in solid silver, handwritten ledgers from the 17th century, antique missals so worn and smudged by priests' hands that they feel alive even behind the glass. There are paintings by the Italian and Maltese masters, religious sculptures, processional crosses, and reliquaries containing saints' bones, tiny splinters of someone once thought holy. And perhaps most powerfully, there are everyday items, bells, candles, ceremonial tools, things that echoed through this cathedral during Mass or feast days, now retired into the solemn silence of preservation. But this cathedral didn't appear from nowhere. Before it was here, the hilltop was home to the Roman temple, likely dedicated to Juno. Before that, a Bronze Age settlement, and before that, who knows, an ancient civilization maybe. This ridge has always attracted people. It's high, it's strategic, it's sacred. When the Knights of St. John took hold of Gozo in the 16th century, the citadel was fortified, and by the early 1700s, this cathedral rose from its bones. It was finished in 1711, and ever since it's been the beating heart of Gozo. To the Gozo interns, this isn't just a building, it's a symbol of endurance, of identity, of constant presence on an island often forgotten by outsiders. Locals still come here not out of obligation, not out of belonging. It's woven into baptisms, marriages, funerals, feast days, and ordinary Tuesdays. Even non-believers tend to speak of its reverence, because it's not just a cathedral in Gozo, it's their cathedral. And maybe that's the beauty of it. There's no dome, there's no flourish, but somehow it soars higher than most cathedrals I've seen. Not because it's grand, but because it's true. Well, that was exceptional. Obviously, it doesn't have the Caravaggios that the Maltese Cathedral does in Valletta, but it does have some exceptional artwork, and it is an exceptionally beautiful cathedral. I think we're going to leave the Citadel now because you can walk around the city walls as much as you like and take in all the little sort of knick-knack shops, get your Maltese tourist hat, but we've got other things to see in Malta, so we're going to take the rest in later. This is me leaving the Citadel, so hopefully you enjoyed this bit of Malta. This was the Citadel in Gozo. A big thank you for watching. More videos on Malta will come soon, along with other exceptional content. I hope you will enjoy it. A big thank you to my Patreons, my subscribe stars, my YouTube members. You help me make these videos, you really do. And every single coffee that is bought, you guys help edit these videos, so I can't thank you enough. Until next time, I will see you in the next video.